What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the review scores for The Last of Us Part 2, but this time, talk about what people are doing. Obviously, the review bombing is fully active, and again, as I've said in a lot of these videos, I have no problem actually with a lot of different things in regards to Last of Us Part 2. I'm pretty darn neutral in terms of respecting everybody's opinion, so I want to kind of bring that into this argument as well, but talk about, what people are saying, talk about the Metacritic of, people obviously giving this very bad scores, and talking about does it actually matter. I really want to focus in on that. Now, really quickly, before I jump into this, I want to promote, I know I've done this before on The Last of Us videos, but my second channel, I'm going to be covering The Last of Us Part 2 there as well. I already have started. There's going to be lots of videos over there, as well as here. Obviously, I'm doing 2 videos today. This one kind of just a spontaneous thing I thought of, but lots of Last of Us 2 videos, both on this channel and on the second channel over the coming weeks. So if you guys like my content, if you guys like what you see, make sure you're subscribed to both channels, have the bell icons turned on so you guys know when all these Last of Us videos go up. All right, so this was not, unexpected in the slightest. It really wasn't. Obviously, right now it's got a 3.4 out of 10 based off of, when I'm seeing this, 9,641. Now, a couple hours ago, I think it was at like 4,000 or 5,000. So it's gotten a couple handful of thousands of people rating this already over the last couple hours. Here's what I'll say. This is really hard. I'll say that. I understand giving this bad scores. I understood like when I've said this before, I see such parallels between this game and Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's not even funny. In fact, it's not funny because they are such kind of tragic tales if you're in like the negative camp, you know what I mean? So, I completely understood the review, the bad scores, let's call it that. I don't want to keep saying that B word. The very bad scores on The Last Jedi, and now the very bad scores on The Last of Us Part 2. I get it. It's the time for the people. Like, literally, this is like a Bane quote, right? It's time for you to take back your city. It's time for the people to be able to weigh in and give their scores on this game when all they've seen so far is all these journalists. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with the journalists, and I said it too, right? You can't put a lot of stock into what they say. Ultimately, though, and so again, like I get it. I understand people giving it bad scores. Ultimately, though, does it matter? I really think, firstly, I don't think review scores matter as much as people say they do. And that's just my personal opinion, but I really don't. When they said that the pre-orders basically were unaffected by the leaks, they're unaffected by, by basically anything, I really do think that solidifies it. I do think this game is going to lose sales. Don't get me wrong. I do think this game is going to lose sales based off of the leaks, based off of the things that people have said, based off of the negativity. So if you are in that camp that like wanted that to happen, I do think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to lose 5, and I've said this before, right? I don't think it's going to lose 5-10 million units. I think if the game was going to sell 18 to 20, I think maybe now it sells 16 to 18. You know what I mean? I really think it doesn't affect it as much as people say. Both the leaks and these review scores. If you're giving the review score just to kind of let out some frustration, I get it. At the same time, from a review score, look, I'm completely in your camp that I hate. I guess I don't hate, but I'm very anti-gaming journalists. Okay, I don't agree with a lot of the things, especially when they throw in their political beliefs and stuff like that. I don't think they're paid off. I saw a lot of people say that when the review scores from journalists came out. I don't believe they're paid off. I think there is more political reasons. There's maybe more reasons of they're afraid of this or that. I think that works its way into it, but I do not think Sony is handing out money to these people. In fact, I've even seen people formally that worked at these places say, you know what, that's just not true. We don't get paid. In fact, we're more afraid of the audience than we are of the publisher, but we definitely don't take money. So, again, I mean, you can believe that or you cannot believe that. I generally don't think that, especially game journalists, get paid off, especially some of these smaller ones that for some reason did get copies of The Last of Us Part 2. I don't think they were paid off to do it. Maybe they were doing it to feel more in line because they knew that everybody else was going to give it high scores, something like that. I think that's likely, but basically the root of this problem is this. Look, I'm playing my way through The Last of Us Part 2. I've obviously seen the entire game. There's going to be videos talking about the entire game, but I'm playing through it now on my own. I'm getting there. And what I will say is I don't. Well, firstly, to give a review score, I feel like and especially the stuff that people are talking about in the review score, I think you maybe need to play it all the way through. Now, I do believe that you don't necessarily need to beat games in order to give an opinion of them, in order to give even like reviews. Now, I don't give review scores even on this channel, or I've reviewed things in the past, but I mainly say, should you buy it or should you not? Should you go to the movies to see it? Should you not? That's kind of my scale. I don't give actual scores. I'll give a score if people ask me to give a score, but I don't do it as part of the review. But for a game like this, that's a story game, I feel like you kind of do need to give it more time than you would something else. I feel like if it's a game that's maybe repetitive, or if it's a game that you really do feel you can experience a lot of it in the over the first, say it's a 50-hour game, but you feel like you can really grasp what you're getting at like 20, 30 hours to give like your impressions of this game. Give an honest, thorough, thought of what this game is. I feel like that's okay. And that's just my opinion. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. But when I'm talking about The Last of Us Part 2, look, factually, people, unless all these people are overseas, which I guess they did get it like a full day ago at this point that you guys are seeing this, but most people haven't even had this game, including myself, haven't had this game for even 24 hours. So they're giving reviews based off of them definitely not beating it, because it's going to take you at least 20 hours to beat this game, and that is if you're rushing through this game very, very quickly. You know what I mean? So there's no way the people that are giving it the review scores actually played it all the way. Maybe and I've seen some of the reviews on Metacritic. A lot of them are talking about the beginning of the game. A lot of them are talking about some of the pivotal moments, like in the middle, maybe and I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to spoil it here, but there is obviously like there's a couple big things that happen, obviously, but there's one big thing that happens kind of in the middle of the game that the journalists weren't allowed to talk about, okay? So like that part right there, maybe people have gotten to that part and have said, okay, I've had enough, I'm done, I'm going to go review this game now. You know what I mean? So, and another thing, though, is a lot of these things, movies, games, they'll get the critic scores and then they'll get the audience scores. And most of the time, the real score, if you even believe in them, which, by the way, I don't, falls somewhere in between. The game, I don't think, is a 95. I don't think it's a 9.5 out of 10. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 game, okay? I want to make that very, very clear, right? I do not think it's a perfect game. I don't think it's a masterpiece of a game. I think there's different things, and we'll talk about them as these weeks go on. I'll give you my full-on impressions of this game. I don't think it's as high as the gaming journalist gave it, but a 3.4, I guess that's not terrible. What I also think has probably happened is because it's a 3.4, truly I believe that if people just let the people that are negative on this game review it, it would probably have like a 1. It would probably have a 0, somewhere in the 0 to a 1 range. I think the only reason it is 3.4, which is bad, it's actually, it's catastrophic, but it's not like I honestly expected it to be in like the 1 to 2 range. That's what I thought. I think the only reason it's 3.4 is people are giving it 10s to kind of help it out. In fact, again, if you go to Metacritic, a lot of people have given this game a 10. Obviously, not nearly as many people have probably given it a 0. But that's kind of the kind of fight, I guess you could say, that it's having. That ultimately leads me to the biggest problem. So this is kind of where I want to leave this video off. Again, I have no problem. And I'm not telling you don't give this game a bad score. I'm not saying, if you get 10, 15 hours into this game, you get to a certain part and you're like, nope, and you go and you review. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying, though, is firstly, I don't know if it's helping anything. Okay, all it's really showing is that a group of people online are upset about something. You know what I mean? Which I guess does have power in some way, but I don't really feel like it's going to impact, anything massive. And another thing, this is a little dicey because I don't want to upset people that are giving it bad scores or good scores, because I think this does apply both ways. To be honest with you, with reviews, what they should be is giving kind of an unbiased opinion. I mean, obviously you're going to have your own experiences thrown in, but I mean like no political stuff, no being paid off, no like back alley kind of things going on. It should be a kind of an unfiltered thought of what you're playing or what you're watching, depending on whatever the medium is. And if I've never seen anything about this game before, I should be able to read it and you take something from it. I don't think you can take something from going on Metacritic and seeing that there's a 9. And again, is the whole game based off of Metacritic? No. Again, I think people put a lot of faith, both good and bad, into Metacritic and also into review scores. People look for bad scores. People look for good scores. People will look for bad things to say about good scores and vice versa for bad scores. Okay, that's just how the world is. I don't really do that. I don't base when I buy a game, I do not base it off of Metacritic. I don't base it off of gaming reviews. I base it off of the stuff that I've seen of this game. Maybe it's part of a pre-existing franchise. Maybe it's something that just kind of caught my eye in a gameplay. It could be like a small game that I saw one trailer of, and I'm like, you know what? That looks different. That looks unique. I'm getting that game. I don't care what the scores are. Very rarely has a score changed. Like I was going to get a game and the score was awful, and I was like, oh, I'm going to drop that down. Very rarely has that ever happened to me. So ultimately, I am a fan of making your own decision. I think we should all be individuals, and that's why I don't have a problem with anybody giving this game good scores. I don't have a problem with anybody giving this game bad scores. All I'm saying is I don't really know if it's worth it, and I don't really know if it's fair to people that are completely outside of this stuff, right? Because again, if you've never seen it, like a couple of my very close friends, they have stayed completely out of this stuff. In fact, one of them stays pretty much out of gaming in general, and then he comes in for like his favorite games. He doesn't know any of it. So if he were to go on, again, like if he were to look for a review, or if he were to see these review scores, like imagine it's like, oh, I feel like it would kind of make it look bad on the bad people, on the people that are like negative on this game. You know what I mean? That he would be like, wow, is it just a bunch of like angry people mad at this game? You know what I mean? And I don't think that's true, because I think there's a lot. I really do think, basically what I'm trying to say in this entire video, and I think I probably have said it poorly, I kind of am defending the people that are giving it bad scores, but I'm letting you know that I think it actually makes people that are against this game look bad, because it kind of makes them look like an angry mob that just is looking to hurt it. You know what I mean? When I think in reality, there are a lot of very good arguments that can be made of why there's a lot of problems with this game. You know what I mean? But not a lot of people see this. If the game got like a 4, 5, 6, you know what I mean? If it was somewhere in the middle, if it wasn't just very clear that it's just a lot of people being angry about this game, then I think maybe it would hold more weight. You know what I mean? But again, a lot of people giving it scores that haven't beaten it, that may have played only a couple hours of this game. You know what I mean? So that's kind of rough. And if people, again, that have never seen this before, jump on and they see this, it doesn't make them look good, even though I do think there's a lot of things to be said about negatively about this game. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a push-pull, and I completely understand both sides to it. I'm happy, and I haven't said this enough. I'm happy if you like this game. That's amazing. I don't really think anybody should be down on you, even if people like in the comments or in this own video. I don't really think people should be down on others for liking something or liking this game. I really don't. It's their life. If they're gonna like this game, they like it. I like parts of this game. I really do. And at the same time, if you don't like it, you shouldn't be ashamed to not like it. You shouldn't be ashamed to say it out loud. And I just feel like a lot of the stuff that's come out with Last of Us Part 2 has made one side look much worse, and they've constantly gone back and forth. It's not like one side has always looked bad. It's definitely gone back and forth, and it depends on really who you're listening to. So, I don't know, some pretty, I think, interesting thoughts that I have on these review scores. I get it. I completely get it, but I think, I don't think it's worth it. I don't really think it helps anybody, you know what I mean? It's not going to impact anything sales-wise. Sometimes developers will get bonuses based off the Metacritic score, but it's not based off of user scores. It's based off of, normally they get bonuses based off of critics. So it's not like you're going to stop people at Naughty Dog from getting like a bonus because of the Metacritic score. You know what I mean? So just some things to keep in mind. But I definitely want to hear from you guys. What do you think? What do you think about the review scores on Metacritic? What do you think about people giving it really, really bad scores? What do you think about people giving it good scores? Let me know in the comments below. Again, as I've said in the beginning of the video, make sure you guys are subscribed, have the bell icon turned on to both of the channels. I'll leave a link for the second channel in the description below if you guys want to check it out. Lots more Last of Us videos coming every single day, actually, on this channel. So very, very exciting. We have a lot to talk about Last of Us Part 2 related, and I can't wait to do it. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you on the next video.